Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to International Arts Talk. Okay. Just a general info before we actually start the talk. A kind reminder that the sequence for today will be from Dr. Pawadee's talk,นะคะ, and then we'll follow suit by the Q&A session. And during the talk, please kindly keep your microphones off. And during the Q&A, should you have any queries or if you wish to engage in a dialogue, please feel free to turn on your microphone then. Okay. So I would like to, if I may, I would like to formally invite Dr. Nirada to give an opening remark for today's talk, if you will. Hi.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our International Arts Talk, and this is the seventh already. Well, we've been organizing the talk since last November. Well, since actually when everything get locked down, the purpose is just to invite international scholars to share their work with us and to also let our scholars to share the talk internationally to the community as well. So we're very grateful that all the speakers since last year accepted our invitation, and the events have been welcomed by not only people in Chula or in Thailand, but also many from different countries. For this seventh talk, which is organized in June, so we got a chance to celebrate Pride Month. And for this occasion, we're very fortunate to have Dr. Saisuwan with us. She is an expert in language and gender. And we're also lucky to have Dr. Singpliam, the Assistant Dean, who is also a specialist in language and culture, to moderate the event. So both of them are the rising stars at the Faculty of Arts, and they're the young voices. So without any further ado, let's give the floor to the younger generation. Dr. Singpliam.
Oh, thank you, Nirada. So today, in celebration of Pride Month, the Faculty of Arts would like to present Constructing Gender and Sexuality in Thai, Findings and Observations from Linguistic Perspectives. Please allow me to give a general, overview of today's talk, before Dr. Pawadee's talk. So in Thai society, gender differences and diversity in terms of sexualities have long been observed and researched and studied by academia and the public alike. Numerous resources, including language, have been associated with gender and sexual identities. And today's International Arts Talk, the Faculty of Arts' very own Assistant Professor Dr. Pavadee Saisuwan from the Department of Linguistics will be sharing with us various elements in Thai language that contribute to the presentation and the construction of gender and sexuality. Please allow me to briefly introduce to you all our speaker for today. Dr. Pawadee's specialisms and research interests lies in language, gender, sexuality, focusing on non-normative men, masculinity, linguistic variation, social meanings and indexicality, language choice and societal multilingualism, linguistic landscape, semiotic landscape, and multimodality and linguistics. Dr. Pavadee has also published numerous works, and some of them include Kathoey and Linguistic Construction of Gender Identity in Thailand, and Language Choice in Thai newspapers and magazines. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our distinguished speaker today, Dr. Pavadee. Please welcome.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. Let me share my screen to you. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to adjust my screen a little bit. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and thank you for coming by today. It's my great pleasure to be here today. So first of all, thank you, Faculty of Arts, Chulalongkorn University, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you and to share my thoughts with you today. So before we begin, there are a few things I'd like to say. So my background is, as you know, in linguistics. I'm a sociolinguist, and I'm interested in working in language, gender, and sexuality. It's one of the areas that I'm interested in. So gender and sexuality have been studied in various fields. So you may have heard about language and gender in Thailand specifically from various perspectives, such as gender studies, cultural studies, Thai studies, or media studies. But of course, what we'll focus on today is the role of Thai language on the construction of gender and sexuality. And we'll look at that from linguistic perspectives. I'll talk about studies, mainly linguistic studies, which focus mainly linguistic studies using different approaches in exploring gender and sexuality in the Thai language. But of course, as we have limited time, we cannot cover all of the studies analyzing the Thai language, and we'll only be able to talk about selected findings from these studies. Also, some of the things that I'll refer to are not research findings, but rather my own observations as a Thai speaker living in Thai society. So, but I'll try to map what I have observed with some theoretical concepts which are relevant in the field. Also, I'm aware that there is diversity among the audience today, so I've tried to hopefully make it interesting or entertaining for everyone. We'll touch upon some technical terms or theoretical concepts, but nothing will be too much for anyone. And of course, everyone is welcome to share your thoughts at the end. I'm very much looking forward to that. So today I divide my talk into 3 sections. So the first on gender and sexuality in Thai society will be very brief, and it's not really our focus here, but I think it can give us some ideas on how diverse we are. And some of the issues will be further discussed in the next sections, focusing more on language. The other 2 sections are the ways I see the Thai language as a resource for constructing gender and sexuality. So in the second section, referring to gender and sexual diversity in Thai, I'll talk about how we construct gender and sexuality through the way we refer to them, or how people of different genders or sexualities are referred to in Thai. We'll look at this in terms of labeling, linguistic sexism, and the critical discourse analysis approach. Then in the last section, we'll talk about the way people of different genders or sexualities talk, how the way they talk contributes to their gender or sexual identity. So that's mainly the outline for today's talk. So first, let's start with gender and sexuality in Thai society. So to start with, you may hear these 2 words, gender and sexuality, being used together, or sometimes sort of interchangeably for some people. And you may have already seen this gender-bread person, which is a way to capture or explain the complexity in gender and sexuality. So to explain this briefly, for those of you who may not be familiar with these issues, there's what we call biological sex. So you were born and assigned as male, female, or intersex, which really depends on physiological attributes such as hormones, chromosomes, or reproductive organs. And we have gender expression, which is the way you show to people whether you are feminine, masculine, or something in between in the continuum. And this can be done through various elements such as clothes you wear, gestures, or hobbies even. This relates to gender identity, which is the way you think about yourself in terms of gender. And last one, we have sexual orientation, which refers to the way you like or want to orient yourself, who you like or who you want to orient yourself to, or who you find attractive. So one can be heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual, but as you may already know, there are many more today, such as you can be asexual or pansexual. So sexual orientation is part of what we call sexuality, as the term sexuality itself can cover other concepts such as erotic desire or erotic practices. So it can cover other concepts rather than this. So in Thai, we do have terms for gender and sexuality, but originally before the emergence of these terms, we only have one word, which covers biological sex, gender, and sexuality, which is the word "phe." So the term is still in use now as a general or non-technical term. In the picture here, you can see this is one of the ways that Thai people try to categorize paid categories that we have in Thai culture. So you can see how biological sex, gender, and sexuality are brought together. So at the top of the diagram, it says here human, which is divided into male and female. Then there are different types of males and females, as you can see from different labels here. And we'll mention some of these labels later. So, and the human figures here show you how feminine or masculine one is. And then the arrows at the bottom here show who one is attracted to. So, for example, you can have someone who is assigned male, but have performed themselves feminine performance, and then look at the arrow here, are attracted to a heterosexual man. So you can see these concepts about biological sex, gender, and sexuality being brought together. And I forgot to say that on the left here, these are the terms that Thai people are now more commonly referring to gender and sexuality. So we'll see the diversity here again in more detail in the next section where we discuss labeling. So the second section here, so relating to the diversity that we have seen, in the next section we'll talk about how people of different genders or sexualities are referred to in Thai. So look at these in terms of labeling, linguistic sexism, and the CDA approach. So what can be reflected is the way different genders or sexualities are portrayed, and we can potentially see the gender ideology hidden behind such representation. Oops. We've seen this picture just a minute ago, and we've seen earlier that there are various paid or gender sexual categories in Thai or in Thai culture. Some of the most common terms are listed here. So we have Kathoey, gay, Tom, and D. They are, I would say, less common nowadays. Let's see if people agree with me. So I think it's less common nowadays compared to 20 years or more, 20 years ago or more so, as people are now much more aware of the issue of gender and sexual diversity or fluidity, and sometimes avoid using these terms as they found it stigmatized or kind of derogatory. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but basically I take these as culturally salient, and they're often discussed in works looking at gender and sexuality in Thailand more generally. Also, sometimes women and men who are straight or heterosexual or who are cisgender are referred to as real women or real men, as I tried to indicate it down here, to clearly distinguish these real people from those who are non-normative. So we'll focus on the first four terms on the top, Kathoey, gay, Tom, and D. I will start with Kathoey. So Gatai is a term used to refer to males or female transgender individuals, or those who were born male but later adopted feminine characteristics and are attracted to people of the same male body, regardless of the sex reassignment surgery. There are also other terms which can be used to refer to Gatai, including Tut or ผู้หญิงประเภท 2, or like the second type of women. All of these terms may yield slightly different impressions among different speakers. So not everyone agrees on what Tut means or what Gatai means, but basically they can all potentially be derogatory. And this highly depends on context, like who said that and who says that to who. So the term itself can mean different things to different people. The term Gatai was once an umbrella term for all kinds of non-normative genders way back in the past. Anyone who are non-normative in terms of their gender or sexuality would be referred to as Gatai, whether one is born male or female, whether one expresses oneself as feminine or masculine. But later, when the term gay arrived from the West, the meaning of Gatai became more specific to exclusively refer to male to female transgender. So here we have the term gay, which arrived from the West around 1965. It has then been used to refer to the masculine types of Gatai. Being a gay man in Thai culture is not just about one's sexuality of being, it's not just about you being homosexual, but also about being masculine, as opposed to being Gatai, who is feminine. So the idea is reflected in the distinction between gay, the term that we have. As you can see here, we have gay king and gay queen, which is the distinction based on both sexual practices of being either active or passive, and also gender expression, whether you are masculine or feminine. However, again, I would say that these terms, gay king and gay queen, such a distinction are kind of obsolete now. They were common when I was a kid, or in late 90s, but no one really uses it anymore. You're free to correct me if I'm wrong in the end, but this is my impression. And the terms which are much more common now are sexually active or sexually passive, which do not say anything about one's gender expression. We also have labels or terms for female homosexuals individuals. We have the term tom or tomboy, which refers to masculine homosexual women, while D comes from the English word lady, and it refers to feminine homosexual women or the feminine partners of tom. So these terms arrived later in the early 1970s. And nowadays, I wouldn't say they're obsolete, but I think they are not as commonly used as they were in the past, or again, as when I was a kid. And I think the reason is partly today, I think Thai people are much more aware of gender diversity, sexual fluidity. So a lot of terms, including those we've seen earlier, are not commonly used anymore, as people find them discriminating or derogatory. For example, the terms for third gender people or people with sexual deviation, the second type of woman or handsome woman, to refer to masculine women, are not recommended, or they are terms that people avoid. So as you can see, those on the left column are kind of not really recommended. Those on the right are more politically correct, such as people with gender and sexual diversity, or transgender, trans man, trans women. In some cases, people prefer to use other terms from English, so to borrow it from English, such as LGBT, LGBTQ, queer, or the term non-binary. So these choices address the gender and sexual fluidity in Thai society. If you are Thai speaker, if you can read Thai, you'll see from the pictures here that the right and wrong choices that I show you here are not absolute. So some I think are debatable. For example, the term kathoy or tut are okay for some people, but are considered stigmatized for some other people. Or even terms, the term like alternative gender is an appropriate term for some people, but some people think it still suggests a secondary position of not being the main gender or not the mainstream, it's just the alternative one. So this really depends, and it's still debatable. And so far we've seen various terms or labels used to identify different gender and sexual categories in Thai society. These labels reflect the perception or the attitude that people have towards people of different genders or sexual identity. And relating to this is the concept, is the next concept that I like to show you is the concept of linguistic sexism, which also captures the attitude of people in the society. So we talk about sexism kind of more generally. Sexism is one of the most common definitions when people talk about sexism is that of Bertolt Brecht, which says that the practices whereby someone foregrounds gender when it is not the most salient feature. Deborah Cameron also refers to sexism as ideas and practices that downgrade women relative to men, but acknowledges that it can refer to ideas and practices that treat either sex unfairly or even just differently. So focusing on language, sexist language might not mean only expressions that exclude, insult, or trivialize women, but also those that do the same thing to men. However, we'll see in the examples that I'm going to show you in a bit that in the Thai context, women are more likely to be excluded, insulted, or trivialized compared to men, which is unsurprising. Also, people of non-normative genders and sexualities are excluded, insulted, or trivialized through sexist language. The reason why I chose this picture as the background here is that one of the main issues concerning language is sexism, and probably something you've been hearing or more familiar with is the use of gender-neutral pronouns, which is quite a big issue, especially for languages originally having only either feminine or masculine pronouns. In English, for example, now we have singular they as a gender-neutral pronoun. In Thai, we don't have quite the exact same problem regarding pronoun use, which is a huge, complicated issue, but we do have some problems relating to linguistic sexism, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So that also, apart from the pronoun, one of the clearest ways of being sexist is through the use of insult terms. And in Thai, I'll show you some pictures through the talk. Don't worry if you can't read Thai, I'll try to explain. But I guess it's just, it might be good for people who can read Thai to see some of this stuff. In Thai, I guess like in many other languages, there are different insult terms associated with women and men. One of the main ways to insult a woman in Thai is to say that she is somehow obsessed with sex or associated with explicit expression of strong sexual desire. So the examples are the first three words I show you here. As you can see, the second word literally refers to rhino. Also, these are some of the ways that people insult women. For a man who financially depends on women can be insulted by the term which literally means horseshoe crab. So it is an insult to a man who doesn't conform to the norm or does not play the breadwinner role as the society expects, but instead relies on women. Also, interestingly, another way to insult a man is to say that he is sissy. I've translated the term sissy here as I have translated the Thai expression here as sissy, as it usually refers to a man who behaves cowardly, not as brave as a man should be. But if you know Thai, you know that this expression literally means the face of female. So basically, this is a way of insulting a man by referring to him as a woman or as having a female face. And this expression is actually strongly derogatory. We also have other similar expressions that I didn't put here. For example, you can tell a cowardly man to go wear your mother's skirt or something like that. So it's the way, so associating a man with a female term is a way to insult a man. But in the end, it kind of an insult for women as well. And it shows that women are somehow still inferior. Sexist potentials we've seen from pronoun choice and insult terms are what Mills categorizes as overt sexism, referring to any linguistic elements which are explicitly sexist. But there's another kind of linguistic sexism which I think is more common in Thai and potentially so common that we're not aware of it being sexist. So this is what Mills categorizes as indirect sexism. So for Mills, indirect sexism is not overtly stated, but occurs at the level of presupposition, humor, or irony. It can be difficult to challenge. Indirect sexism relies heavily on context of a linguistic element or expression. As Mills mentioned, through focusing on context, we can see that each particular context is informed by or negotiates with notions of what is appropriate, acceptable within that community of practice. So Mill takes a pragmatic approach in talking about indirect sexism, and now we're going to see some examples of what I think are indirect sexism in Thai. So these categories that I'm showing you are, so I'm going to show you categories of indirect sexism according to Mill, but examples from Thai are from me. So first is humor. It's actually very common to see jokes like these examples here in Thai and also in other languages which touch upon the issues of how women talk. I'm trying to translate this for you. So specifically, these jokes tell you that women tend not to say what's really on their mind. For example, if a woman says, "I'm okay, I'm all right," what she means really is she's not okay. Or if she says, "Leave me alone," you really shouldn't leave her alone. If she asked you, "Am I fat?" the only possible answer is no. You should only say no. So you might consider these jokes just funny and just laugh at it, and it seems pretty natural. And you may not really take them as sexist, but actually what we can see here is that this kind of joke reflects the androcentric perspective. So looking at this from sort of the perspective of men, so men are treated as somehow superior or better. So like in this case, women are not honest as men in terms of like the way that they speak. So when we find it funny and laugh at these jokes, inevitably we're kind of endorsing such stereotypes and are reinforcing or reproducing the ideology, making it proliferate in the society. The next example comes from presupposition, which refers to the phenomenon where something can be assumed or implied based on an utterance. And presupposition affects the way that we refer to different occupations with occupational terms. So in Thai, when you hear occupational terms like nurse or prostitute, I think 99% of Thai speakers would think of female nurses and female prostitutes without having to hear the word female. Similarly, soldier, police, and doctor are occupational terms typically associated more with men. So when you want to refer to a woman who works as a police officer, you have to say ตำรวจหญิง or female police officer. So this relates to what is called social gender. Basically, there are stereotypes or expectations of appropriate social roles for women and men. So when you want to talk about people who do not follow such norm, such as male nurses or female police officer, the gender needs to be explicitly mentioned. So another example, and also the last example of indirect sexism, is collocation, which is the tendency of a word to appear with or collocate with another word. So a number of words are not sexist in themselves, but the fact that they tend to appear with other words which have negative meanings or negative connotations may lead to a particular direction of stereotype or representation. In Thai, we have examples here from news headlines. So you can see that the terms Tom, Gatoy, and gay, which we have already seen, are collocated by negative terms such as here, brutally jealous, bad, or AIDS. I'm not sure if my translation is the best, but I've tried my best. So the last one, gay with AIDS, also unnecessarily emphasizes the stereotypical association between gay men and HIV/AIDS in Thai society. I say it's unnecessarily because gender and sexual identity of the person is not relevant here. It doesn't matter to the content of the news anyway. So this way of representation inevitably reproduces stereotypes and negative images, especially of people with gender and sexual diversity. So these are just some examples of linguistic sexisms in Thai. What I've tried to show you here is that we can see cases of both overt sexism and indirect sexism in the Thai language. While overt sexism is pretty straightforward, indirect sexism is much more subtle, and sometimes we're often not really aware of it. And also, because it's not explicit, its interpretation highly depends on context. Now, moving to the last part of the second section. So far, we have looked at ways one can construct or represent gender and sexuality in Thai through labeling and various other forms relating to linguistic sexism. Now, we're going to look at how gender and sexuality are represented in discourse and what the representation informs us of problems in Thai society. And one of the approaches in linguistics which allows us to see this is critical discourse studies or critical discourse analysis. For those of you who are not familiar with this, I'll just explain it briefly. That CDA, I'm showing you here the definition from one of the significant figures in CDA, Van Dyke. So critical discourse analysis is discourse analytical research that primarily studies the way social power, abuse, and inequality are enacted, reproduced, legitimated, and resisted by text and talk in the social and political context. So a critical discourse analyst would analyze discourse or text at the level beyond sentences and try to explain the message behind the text or criticize the society. The approach allows us to see what's wrong or what's to be criticized in society and how the problems are shown through various kinds of linguistic resources. So now, if we focus on critical discourse studies in Thai, which touches upon the issue of gender and ideology, one of the main issues that usually come up is gender roles. So CDA of various sources in various sources of Thai text review the stereotypical gender roles of women and men. And as you can see here, lexical selection in Thai textbook shows us that women are stereotypically associated with domestic roles of cooking, cleaning, and taking care of children. They're also associated with being kind and pretty. Men, on the other hand, are associated with the breadwinner role of working. They're associated with fighting, being determined, strong, and brave. Modality in relationship advisory discourse on webboards suggests the same kind of stereotype or expectation in gender roles. Briefly, modality refers to the way an utterance expresses the speaker's degree of commitment to the utterance, whether it is something the speaker is very sure of or strongly believes, or it's something obligatory, or it's just something that is possible but not necessarily true. Here you can see that a speaker or someone who posted this on a whiteboard gives advice by saying that women's salary should be spent on the children. So this affirms the connection between women and their expected role as a mother. Men are referred to as those who often want someone to take care of them, and it's likely that men need attention supposedly from women. Another issue is agency, or the presentation of women and men as agents or actors who do something. Examples here in Thai magazines, women are the ones who take care of men. They are also the agents who control men by criticizing, seducing, or making one's heart pound. Men, on the other hand, are the agents of physical actions, typically relating to sexual activity such as sexual assault or slap and kiss. In crime news headlines, female agents are often linguistically portrayed as mother and wife, while male agents as someone being horny. So the difference is that the way male agents are described in this way in men on women violence news implies that only men of certain kinds, such as horny men, are those who commit the crime. And this is not the case for men in general. So this is the way that the news is trying to sort of protect men in general, that those who did the crime were just horny ones, not women in general. Well, this is not the case for women who are portrayed as the general role as being mother and wife. CDA studies in Thai also reveal the beauty standard for both men and women. As you can see from the examples here, a shapely figure, youthful beauty, and white, flawless skin are desirable traits for women and are claimed to be common fact shared by every woman. Bodily modification is also linguistically constructed as something effortless, something you can achieve or you can have, or something which can be done within a short period of time. Desirable characteristics of women found in advertisements match with the way women are portrayed in men's magazines as pretty, sexy, petite, lively, and cute. Radiant skin is also presented as a desirable trait for men, while certain characteristics such as having oily skin or excessive fat are presented as undesirable. There is a critical discourse studies focusing on language and ideology of male homosexuality in Thai newspapers. So this particular analysis reveals three ideologies, which you can see here at the bottom of the table, at the top row of the table. The first one is male homosexuals are not accepted as part of society. And this is indicated by the use of terms such as gender or the second type of woman. So basically they are third or they're the second type, they're not like the first one. And being homosexual is described as something that requires a person to be brave. And it's something that may have to be kept a secret before you finally come out at some point in your life. Also, homosexuality is compared to war through the metaphor, where you have to fight or defend, and then some people are considered heroes or heroines. The second ideology here is male homosexual expression is against social norms. Homosexual men are associated with terms with negative connotations such as brutal, so similar to the one we have seen earlier. The use of presuppositions such as that in sentence, my oldest child is a boy, but happens to be a katoi. So this kind of sentence shows us that a boy who turns to be, or a son who turns to be a katoi does not conform to the expectation of the society. The last ideology shown here is male homosexuals are normally immersed in affection and sexual activity. So this is indicated by the use of words associated with sex and relationships, such as horny, jealous, and AIDS. Right, so far in the second section, we've seen examples from labelings, linguistic sexism, and critical discourse studies, which shows how people of different genders and sexualities are referred to or talked about in Thai. And this reflects the way different genders and sexualities are portrayed and the gender ideology behind such presentation. Now, in the third section of the talk, I'll move on to the way Thai speakers can index their gender and sexual identity, and which linguistic elements in Thai can be correlated with gender and sexuality or can be used to construct gender and sexuality. I'll begin with language and people of normative gender sexuality, and then I'll move on to language and non-normative groups of gender and sexuality. So let's now start with the normative group. Linguistic studies exploring language and gender originally focus on how women and men speak, and that's what we'll be looking at now. So, talking about how women and men speak, one of the stereotypical expectations is that women should speak more politely than men. This is actually not just the case in the Thai language, but the example here is from the Thai society. And me, as a native Thai speaker, I've several times heard people complaining about women who use impolite language or taboo, but rarely about men who do so. So people find it disturbing or really annoying, kind of unacceptable when they hear women use impolite language. Apart from my own anecdotal experience, shown here is a piece of empirical evidence of how impolite language affects women or the way they're perceived. I took this picture from a webboard post on Pantip. So for those of you who are probably not familiar with the Thai context, so Pantip is the most popular webboard among Thai people for so many years now, like more than 10 years now. So any issues that bother people or just popular issues among people would be there. So the post here, you see the title in yellow in the top. So the yellow title says, when women use impolite language, their cuteness decreases. Well, that's my rough translation. And in the post, the author, or the person who wrote this post, who is assumed to be a man based on his use of masculine first person pronoun and final particle. So the author explains that he's having a problem. He is attracted to a woman who is cute and who has a shapely figure, who is everything that he has been dreaming of as his girlfriend. And he's thinking of asking her out or dating her. The only thing that bothers him or makes him unsure about dating her is that she uses impolite language, even to him. So he's now asking whether anyone has any solution to this. What can we do? What can I do to make her stop doing this, or at least kind of reducing it a little bit? So he finds it a kind of big problem to further the relationship with this person. The same kind of problem doesn't seem to happen with men speaking impolitely. Men are actually associated with impolite language. And even like the use of swear words, roughly meaning damn or shit in Thai, these are common in conversation. These are claimed to also be common in conversations among men, and claimed to be the expression of intimacy in men's talk. And this is really not, this study is from the Thai context, but this case is not specific within the Thai culture. It happens in a lot of places in the world where there's the kind of intimacy among men, and it's communicated through this kind of impolite language. Anyway, so such expectation of women being polite or more polite seems to match with Lakoff's famous notion of women's language. Examples of women's language in Lakoff's description include the use of weaker expletives and the use of very, very polite forms. Also, in Thai, apart from the expectation for women to speak politely, the Thai grammar requires gender distinction between female and male speakers in their use of polite final particles and first-person pronouns. There is a set of particles and pronouns for female speakers and another different set for male speakers. So taking this view of prescriptive grammar, polite final particles and first-person pronouns in Thai are what Ox refers to as direct indexes of gender. So basically, you can tell whether a speaker is female or male based on the speaker's use of final particles and first-person pronouns. So these elements directly index the gender of the speaker. So now let's look at these. Let's look at the polite final particles first. In Thai, there's one particle for men, as you can see here on the left, while there are two for women. And the choice between the two depends on the kind of utterance a speaker is making. Roughly, I've tried to show here roughly, the rule is that, well, but it's not the whole thing, but this is part of, well, the basic rules is that the first one with the low tone is used in greeting and declarative sentences, while the second one with the high tone is used with questions or when you address someone. Although we can categorize Thai polite final particles as direct indexes of gender, as I have explained a while ago, there are occasions where speakers of one gender use polite final particles prescriptively assigned to the other's gender, as shown in the two picture here. Sorry, I didn't provide a translation, but basically these are jokes which I think show the general perception of speakers' use of pronouns, not originally assigned to their gender. So the one on the left, the yellow one, the joke says that 90% of women fall for men who use feminine polite final particles. So you can see here that there are occasions where male speakers would use the feminine particles, and the perception is that women like it and women can't resist it, like it's just too sweet. And the one on the right, the kind of pink one, says that people tend to think that 99% of men who use feminine polite final particles are playboys. But I'm not, I'm actually a trans woman, or the actual word used here is a thought. I'm actually a thought. I'm not a playboy. So this shows that this is a case of a male speaker who uses feminine forms. And you can have different interpretation of such use, which doesn't conform to the prescriptive grammar. So next is first person pronouns, which is what I said, another kind of direct indexes gender in Thai. The story with first person pronouns in Thai are always very complicated, and we don't have time to go over all this. The choice of first person pronouns depend on various factors, including formality, power, and distance between interlocutors. We have, I'd like to draw your attention to some of the forms here. So we have the masculine pronouns, hom, which is highlighted in blue here. And we have the feminine pronouns. We have dishan and nu, highlighted in pink. And also we have other gender neutral pronouns. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the masculine form can be used in all kinds of contexts, while the selection is much more complicated for feminine forms. Well, generally, dishan is used when the speaker is in a formal context, regardless of power and distance among interlocutors, while nu is used when the speaker has less power than the addressee, regardless of formality and distance. But this is really just a guideline. It's actually harder to make a decision in real life conversation. So having these two different forms sometimes gives women a hard time, as they can't decide which one is more appropriate for a situation. And each pronoun does give a different impression to the addressee. So here are some of the examples I found on the internet. So what I did is I Googled, in Thai, I Googled pronoun, woman, and Pantip, which is the popular web board I mentioned earlier. So that's what I got. So here are some of the posts that people have. So here are some of the issues that people have raised with the issue with the feminine pronoun. So these posts show us that a lot of women have problems choosing the right pronoun in situations like job interviews. So they find dishan too formal. If you think of a student who's just graduated and they felt like they're even too young to use dishan, and it makes things just sound way too formal, and they feel comfortable using it. But using nu would make the speaker sound like a kid or sound immature. So none of the pronouns seem to really fit seem not to fit really their the way that they want to express themselves. Also here, there's also a question of when in your life, when in a woman's life that she should stop using nu, or why some aged women still use nu, like at this age and you still use nu, something like that. So as you can see here, men do not face the same situation with pronoun choice. So the relation between language and gender in Thai is not limited to pronouns and polite final particles, which can be categorized as direct indexes of gender, but exists in other linguistic levels as well. Here, I've shown you some studies, some sociolinguistic studies. Sociolinguistic studies, particularly first wave variation of sociolinguistics, which focuses on quantitative studies of the correlation between linguistic features and social factors, have been studying the relation between language and gender. And gender of the speaker is taken as a social variable which can be correlated with certain linguistic patterns. In the context of Thai society, gender of speakers is one of the top 3 most studied social variables, as claimed by Diamond 2019. Foundational sociolinguistic studies, like in the West, in the US or in Europe, which explore the correlation between language and gender, have found that women tend to use standard forms or standard variants more frequently than men do. Most of the studies in the context of Thai society or in the Thai language also find the same pattern of women being more standard. For example, here, you can see in standard Thai, women use standard form of the R sound of the r sound more frequently than men, rather than the vernacular or the non-standard form. The pattern also often found among regional dialects of Thai is that women tend to use linguistic forms associated with Bangkok more than men, who tend to keep local forms. This is because the variety of Thai spoken in Bangkok, or the so-called Bangkok Thai, is considered more prestigious than other regional dialects and hence taken as a standard form. So this pattern is found in various regional dialects, including here Songkhla, Nakhon Si Thammarat, Prang, and the Northern Thai dialect. Also in other parts of the world, gender is studied in relation with other social variables such as education, social class, and age of speakers. So these are basically works done by variation in sociolinguistics. Gender and language in Thai is also studied from the pragmatic perspective and a conversation analysis approach. So these approaches focus on conversational practices, comparing men and women, well, these are just selected findings, so they actually do a lot of more things, and gender is just one of the issues that they looked into. So comparing women and men can show similarities and differences in their conversational strategies. For example, giving reason is the most frequently used strategy among both women and men in negating for hiding the truth or in making contradictory statements. Or women tend to respond to verbal irony by apologizing, while men tend to do so by giving reasons. You have cases where different strategies in turning down passengers' requests are found to be based on not only on the gender of the speaker, but also the gender of the addressee or the passenger. And the last one here is my own study, taking the conversation analysis approach. I found a difference between women and men in terms of conversational dominance, like whether men or women dominated conversations more. However, aligning with theories about women and men's conversational practices, the data had suggests the cooperative conversational style of women and the competitive conversational style of men. Okay, last but not least, we're now moving on to the very last subsection of the talk today. Well, we're talking about language and non-normative gender and sexuality. So when thinking of LGBTQ community members in Thai society and their language use, one of the first things that comes to mind for Thai speakers, I think, is that these people of non-normative gender sexuality have their own secret language, secret code, which they use to communicate among themselves. The well-known secret language among Thai LGBTQ speakers is called the Lu language. So the Lu language is a secret language used among Thai LGBTQ speakers, particularly Kathoey or male to female transgender individuals. It is a kind of language play in Thai. So basically it is Thai. So Lu speakers do speak Thai. This is Thai, but they modify the Thai, the original language, in certain ways so that it's unintelligible for outsiders or people who have no idea what they're speaking. I myself am not a Lu speaker, and the goal today is not to teach you to speak the Lu language, but I'll try to explain it briefly. I'll try to explain briefly how it works so you get some ideas. So the first step is to add the word Lu after each syllable. Then you transpose the initial sounds of the two syllables. For example, the word Pua or husband, if you add the word Lu after that, and then you transpose the initial syllables, the initial consonant, the initial consonant sound, what you get is Lua Pu, adding Lu after each syllable of the word Kathoey. And then you transpose the initial sounds of the two syllables, and you get La Gu for the first syllable, and then Le Tui for the second, and then you put them together. So the four syllables, you get 4 syllables in the end. And it goes like this for every syllables. So if you want to say the whole sentence in the Lu language, you just need to do this for each syllable. For example, if you want to say something looks really good, do di ma in the Lu language. So the 3 syllables become 6 syllables. You have lu du, li du, lak muk. So this is really just the basic rules, but there are actually many more kind of grammatical rules and also exceptions that you need to learn if you want to become one of the speakers. Okay, so the Lu language was originally used exclusively among males or female transgender individuals, as I mentioned, or the LGBTQ community. But today it has, what I found interesting is that it has started to appear more often in the mainstream. Millie, here, this woman here, Millie is a popular Thai artist and rapper, and she includes the Lu language in the lyrics of some of her songs. Also, in the pro-democracy and anti-government movement led by the youth we had last year, the protesters made a statement against the state's use of violence against the people. And the statement was made into many languages: Thai, English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, Hungarian, Chinese, Korean, Khmer, Vietnamese, Indonesian, many more. And to everybody's surprise, we had a statement translated into the Lu language, as you can see here at the top. So for me, I think it's a very interesting phenomenon, as it's not common, or as well, it's not common, or it's not often that you would see the appearance of a casual or a colloquial language like the Lu language to appear in a formal context, especially in the political domain. What else? Apart from the Lu language, Thai people also perceive non-normative men, especially transgenders, and also sometimes gay men, to be the group of speakers who often create and bring new words, slangs, or new meanings, or existing words to society. They are popularly associated with Katoa vocabulary or Thut vocabulary. Slang that Thai people use today, a lot of them was originally more exclusively used in the LGBTQ community, but then later spread into the mainstream and were adopted by other groups of speakers. The pictures here are just some examples of various media types which talk about Katoa vocabulary, and there are actually plenty of them online now. So the idea of Thai LGBTQ communities having their own secret language can be seen in academic research as well. Here, the study you see here explores what the researcher calls gay language. So the study finds that there are many linguistic features used in conversations among openly gay speakers. In the picture here are some examples of vocabulary claimed to be gay language, but the gay language covers more, including the use of slangs, jargons, the use of English words in Thai conversation, the use of taboos, such as impolite pronouns or words referring to sexual organs. Also, it covers the prolongation of last syllable and the change of certain consonant sounds. The idea of Thai LGBTQ speakers having their own secret language in Thai society is not something unique or not something new. You can see similar things happening in other languages. For example, there was a glossary in English, as you can see here on the left, compiling lexical items which were thought to be the language of homosexuality. There is also a concept of gay speak in American culture, short speak in the Philippines, polari in Britain. So all these take the so-called gay language as the secret language of the subculture. Although these studies reveal to us interesting information about LGBTQ speakers, it's been noted or criticized by many scholars as well that such view assumes that anything a gay person says is a characteristic of a gay language. But actually, and I quote Cameron and Cooley 2003 here, the fact that gays do X does not make X gay. So this view also tends to make us see LGBTQ people as homogeneous and ignore potential variations within groups. So the point is that rather than see those features as descriptive of the linguistic practice of particular groups, it is more sensible and more productive to regard them instead as symbolically or ideologically laden linguistic resources that are available for anyone. Right, and I'll show you other examples, which hopefully will make this a little bit clearer just in a bit. So just like sociolinguistic studies, which focus on women and men's speech, non-normative gender and sexuality is taken as a social variable in sociolinguistic research. So although Winter argued that Gatoi invariably use the feminine pronouns and final particles, and arguably like language may not be a good indicator of identity. A study on the use of first-person personal pronouns and polite final particles in Thai among effeminate male speakers, compared to female and male speakers as well, has shown that things are more complicated. So effeminate male speakers use both feminine and masculine pronouns and particles. Well, the effeminate male speakers here sort of refer to kind of gay men or trans altogether, but this is the word used in the original research. Also, effeminate male speakers typically use female pronouns and particles and non-gender specific pronouns and particles when they speak to parents or intimates with greater frequency than when they speak to teachers or non-intimates. So the bottom line here is that the context, particularly the relationship between interlocutors, seem to be very significant in the Thai context. Relating to this, in my own study, where I compare the use of first-person pronouns on webboards among Gatoi or trans women and those among women, I found that gender-neutral pronouns are very common and actually are more common among women, as you can see here in the bar chart. So the two bars on the left show the percentage of pronoun used in webboards among the trans women, while those on the right show that in webboards among women. Focusing on the two feminine pronouns, Dishan and No, that we've seen earlier as well, I found that women tend to use No to perform an affective or intimate stance, while they use Dishan very infrequently, as it indexes high formality among women. So basically, Dishan is very marked for among women, so they don't normally use it. However, this is not the case for Gatoi speakers, as Gatoi speakers use Dishan in a webboard conversation as an unmarked choice, I would say, or as a default option, and only use No to index younger age or senior, lower seniority among them. So this indicates different social meanings associated with feminine pronouns used by the two groups of speakers. In my PhD dissertation, I looked at the role of language in gender construction among Thai men who identify with non-normative male roles. I did an ethnographic work where I spent time with my informants, recording their interactions and interview them. As I didn't want to judge my informants' parotid fieldwork, so I included informants who were assigned male at birth, but later in life identify with non-normative male roles. So my informants include both Gatoi or the trans women and gay men. And I looked at two linguistic variables, which are vowel lengthening and self-reference terms in Thai. So here are the summary of some of the findings. So the main findings. So I took the concept of stance taking from Du Bois and argue that vowel lengthening is used as a tool for strengthening the force of stance taking. So the variable is used to intensify both the epistemic stance and affective stance of an utterance. So vowel lengthening has interactional purposes in context. When intensifying epistemic stance, vowel lengthening is associated with the characteristic of being overly or very confident. When intensifying the affective stance, it makes the speaker sound affected and entertaining, or just, funny or friendly. So the repeated use of vowel lengthening for such interactional purposes leads to the ideological association between the ideological association of the variable with certain personality types and a broader social category of Thai non-normative men more generally. So here I use Ock's model of indirect indexicality to explain the relationship between vowel lengthening and the gender identity of non-normative Thai men, and to argue that the relationship is constitutive and indirectly constructed via stance intensification, with a gender ideology relating to non-normative Thai men available in Thai society as background. I've also looked at pronoun use of my informants and analyzed it both quantitatively, but more qualitatively. So here are some of the main things I like to point out in my data. So first, the trans women or the Katoi do not always use feminine forms as claimed to be the case by scholars in the past. Gay men do not necessarily use masculine forms. Gendered pronouns are not always available to be used. For example, a situation where the relationship between interlocutors is reciprocal. It's very, very natural for Thai speakers to use gender-neutral pronouns. So my point is that when you hear speakers use gender-neutral pronoun, it doesn't always mean that they are trying to hide their gender identity or somewhat. So gender is not the only factor that has to be taken into account when choosing an appropriate pronoun or self-reference term. So it's not straightforward. Also, for example, when the speaker is older than the addressee, the kin term P, which indicates the speaker's older age, tends to be chosen. So therefore, pronoun choice of non-normative Thai men is highly dependent on context, which includes the formality of the situation, the intimacy, and the power between interlocutors. Last but not least, there are also more recent works from various other perspectives, such as the acoustic study, which found a positive correlation between the voice onset time and the femininity index of trans women. There are also perception studies, which look at how accurately Thai people of different gender and sexual identity and non-Thai people can identify gender and sexuality of Thai straight men and gay men based on their voice. To conclude, today I've touched upon two main ways of looking at linguistic construction of gender and sexual identity in Thai. That is how we construct gender and sexuality through the way we refer to them, and how the way people of different gender and sexualities talk contributes to their gender and sexual identity. So to end this talk, I just want to emphasize that, as I'm sure you've already been aware of, that we're now living in the world with gender and sexual diversity. It's very important for all of us to embrace diversity with understanding. And language is, of course, a significant part of that process. So as someone working in the area of language, gender, and sexuality, I hope I have illustrated that the relation between language, gender, and sexuality is nuanced and subtle, and that reflects the gender and sexual diversity that we have in Thai society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pavadee. Thank you. This is such a great talk and very knowledgeable. If I may, well, I mean, you have ended your talk with a brief conclusion on all of the three parts already, but perhaps just give maybe a few minutes for the audiences at home to prepare, if they have any, comments or queries that they would like to, address to you. But you have started off your talk starting by defining the idea of gender and sexuality, and of course the notion of pet in Thai society, and then moving on to the idea of labeling, linguistic sexism too, and then of course the approach of CDA. And you also ended with normative and non-normative in terms of Thai gender and sexual diversity, which is all very relevant to today's society. So a big thank you to you and your very hard work. So from the audiences at home, if any of you would like to engage in a dialogue with Dr. Pavadee while she's here, please feel free to turn on your microphone and ask, some questions or share your ideas.
Or I guess
Jason,
type something.
Jason,
Okay.
yeah,
Hi,
Jason.
Jason.
Yes, please.
Hi, Pavadee. Hindiด้วยนะครับอาจารย์ Pavadee for a very insightful talk. I'm just curious about the pronouns that you use in Thai language. I don't know if I'm just overreading, but in the case of pom, which is the first person used by male, this also refers to the hair, right? And then nu also refers to wrap. So I'm just curious, does this have anything to do with how Thai society see men and women?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Like, I guess we need kind of etymological background a bit to answer that question. So, I don't. Joe, do you want to say something in terms of the history of these words? Like, I've heard people talked about this before, but I don't want to say anything to like. I might misunderstand it.
Okay.
Joe may want to add something to Jason's question.
So yeah, I think we have to be careful trying to connect similar looking forms in the present and try to make, big claims about it. Words can look alike for many reasons, and one reason is etymology, like Ajahn Pavadee says. And what used to be etymologically connected might not have any real connection in the present, right? So things get reanalyzed all the time in the history of language. I'm not sure about the word nu, but there's a study on the word pom, which so it's pom is short from for kao krapom, which means the hair on my head, basically. So it was a polite term, like humbling term, like when you talk to someone with more power, you put their commands on your head because your head is like the most important, the most sacred part of your body. So you take their commands on their heads. That means you are commending yourselves to them. So, but we don't make that connection anymore. It's been lexicalized. So, so maybe we need a real, a careful historical linguistics on these terms, and also a perceptual study on the synchronic connection as well, to understand what it means for Thai speakers nowadays.
Thank you, Achan, and congratulations again to Achan Pavadee.
Thank you. Can I answer to one of the questions in the chat? So can you comment on any implications for how we can raise awareness of these complexities and issues of learners of L2 Thai? Well, I mean, for me, I guess what I have experienced is that a lot of times when people talk about Thai society more generally, or Thai culture, and these kind of non-normative sexuality, people tend to have very strong stereotypes about certain types of speakers, or kind of ignore all the complexities that we have. And in terms of the L2 learners, I think it's very important for us to not trying to generalize everything. And well, at the first step, it might be useful to kind of simplify things so that it's more effective for L2 learners. But once things go on, then it's also significant to show them the complexity, all kind of exceptions and stuff like that, and particularly with languages in the region, in the area, like Asia in general. Actually, we have a lot of things that are not necessarily in common, but things that are not existing, or well, not existing in the West, in the Western world, where these kind of concepts and ideas come from. So I think we should have more conversations about that and make the Alto learners be aware of all these diversity linguistically and kind of more generally.
Ajahn Pavadee, we also have Best, who raised, I would assume, her hand. Best, she and her. Yes. Hi.
Hi.
And would you unmute yourself, please, and then ask questions? Okay.
สวัสดีค่ะสวัสดีอาจารย์นะคะ my name is Bess. First of all, I'm a transgender women student, a master student from the Faculty of Social Science, Chiang Mai University, and I'm also an activist my community called Young Pride Club. So congratulations to Ajahn. This is such a great presentation for me as a person inside the community who always skeptical about why gay and trans always creating a new word or multiply a new words as always. And this is a great presentation for me to know the origin and the different aspect in other countries in the world. So I have briefly two suggestions, and it will lead to the question of mine as well. So the first one is that as Ajahn showed the demonstration of paid in Thailand, right? You see the relationship between one identity to the other identity. And the thing is that when we talk about the gender and sexuality in the maybe Western concept, right? We will separate between the sexuality and gender identity. But in Thai, we can see the inclusive of the term that it can combine between the identity and sexuality, maybe the sexual expression or gender expression within one word. And another thing is that US or any English languages country, they talk a lot about the pronouns, right? But one of the things that we are so skeptical about the use of this thing is, which is in Thai we call it's just the ending sentence term or honorable term, which is ka, krap. But Thai people are the non-normative gender starting to have their own ending sentence word, which is like ha, ja, things like this, and which is not where we are very interesting that if this could be the gender neutral and the ending sentence that could lead to the use for the queer community in the future as like a they them in the English word, right? So the second suggestion is that you can see when you mention about the gender in Thailand, you can see the ชายแท้หญิงแท้ you can see the concept of Thai society that give a privilege to the cisgender heterosexuality or heteronormativity, which is like when you mention about other or each identity, for example, like a her, you can see their gender is very feminine, which is related to like หญิงแท้ or their sexuality are related to their relationship with a male. Or even gay, you can see the binary from it, which is like gay king, gay queen. And you see the lesbian community in Thai, we call Tom D. You still see the binary, right? And the study that I conducted for my master is that we found out that there are some other identity within the Kathoy community. For example, we have the community called Kathoy less, which is our Kathoy who was born biological as a male, but she wanted to date another woman, for example. But this community was not accepted and has a visibility to talk in whether it's the publication, media, or academia. So here it is. To the question is that you mentioned about the sexism, about the heteronormativity and all the sexism in different aspects, right? Do you think that how we could overcome this sexism? So my suggestion would be like, is it abolishing the term in Thai? For example, you say that some people don't say tut or gatois anymore. Is it going to help us to abolish the sexism in Thai? Or the way that we're creating a new word, more and more creating the new word, whether it's a gender neutral or just a new identity, it is going to help us to overcome the sexism in Thailand. Or the last one is that is it possible if we could reimagine or reconsider the existing term in Thailand or in Thai language to overcome the sexism? For example, like we've seen the different times that Thai society tried to reconsider the term Kathoy. Previously, it was like any identity, which is an ambiguity from men, woman, right? But now it's just embedded only the transgender community. Maybe in the future, it could be the gender neutral community or umbrella term like queer, that there's a reimagined term as well. So here's my question, Ajahn.
That's a lot of issues there. I'm trying. Let me see if I can cover some of these. I think there's no one way to just abolish the sexism, and it's not like a one-night process. And there's no easy way through that. But I'm sure that language is language is also important, and then people sort of that's part of the reason why I raised the issue of indirect sexism today as well, because I think sometimes we don't have kind of explicit issues with sexism as maybe other languages, but a lot of things are kind of more subtle, like humor and stuff. So I think the first thing is probably to raise awareness kind of more generally. In terms of dealing with these linguistic labels, I think it can go together like alongside with raising awareness of people in general. But then it's like, it takes time. Like you can't just force people to suddenly use this word. You can suggest them to and say that, okay, this is the words that we think, but it then really takes time for things to happen. So I think it's many things that we have to do all together at the same time. So it's like raising awareness in general, and then we can look at linguistic issues at the same time as well. But like, thank you very much for all these points.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ajahn Pavadee, we have, before we go to Marvin, who raised their hand, I'm just gonna go with a gender neutral term, their hand. But we do have some messages in the chat.
Right?
Shall we start with Chatpon,ดีไหมคะ?
Okay.
Yes.
Could you recommend where to look up how to translate gender terms in Thai in non-offensive way? I don't think I can recommend, like every time I try to find translations, I just need to look at various places of how people use the terms. And I think it's still very much kind of technical terms right now, but of course people are much more aware of this and use all of these terms a little more. But no, I don't think we have the kind of sources for translations of these terms. But well, one of the ways maybe to look at academic resources, I would say, like there may be some studies like cultural studies or gender studies which look into these concepts, and you can probably look how they use the word. You might find it being used, translated in different ways by different people. Should I go on to the next one?
Yes. Praksit Chai, I think. I work with K-12. Well, just read out the comment, shall I? Yes, I work with K-12. Yes, I work with K-12 students in international school, and I teach Thai language and culture. As I know, we agree that there is a sexual diversity in Thai society, but raising this topic for discussion in the classroom might be problematic due to some Thai cultural issues. So in your opinion, is it appropriate to teach this topic in class or adding this to the content? Please kindly recommend.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, of course, to like embrace the diversity, and it would be good to kind of acknowledge this in schools, so it gets some sort of recognition. But I don't think it's the only channel that we can do this. And if if we can't do this in formal education, you can just do it in other forms, I guess, like school clubs, something like that. I think the society right now offers us a lot of ways to raise awareness in these issues. But I agree that having it in classroom, it shows some kinds of recognition, and of course a good idea. Should I?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. So I'll just read the next one.
Yes, please.
And this question might not relate to your dissertation directly, but it would be great to know like how many gender pronouns to include in survey. For example, would straight, non-binary are inclusive enough to put in the survey, especially in social science survey? Thank you.
I'm not sure if I understand this. Like, what survey do you mean, or like, is it my study?
Well,
like in my study, if it's the first one, I just looked at all the pronouns that came up in the whiteboard, and I just looked into all of those. Similarly, for my PhD dissertation, these are all data driven, so I didn't pre-given them anything. I just took all the pronouns or self-reference terms that they use. So I didn't offer them kind of like straight, non-binary or something like that.
Okay. Dr. Pavadee, shall we perhaps move to those who also raised their hand
Sure.
in the room as well? Yeah. So Marvin, would you like to unmute? Yes, and then ask some questions, please.
Okay, hello everyone. Sawadee ka tukun. Thank you, Ajahn Pavadee, for a very good and very informative talk this afternoon. So my question is not basically about the language that we talk about, pronouns or gender pronouns that you talk about. My question is about the protection or technically about the rights of LGBTQ community members here in Thailand, because like in other countries, especially in like in America or in European countries, even in the Philippines, we have several laws and rule that ideally protects the members of our LGBT community. For example, in the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, is not yet implemented. Like we have the SOGI bill, or what we call Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity Equality Bill. If I'm not mistaken, it's not yet implemented, but the government is pushing it. Like for a couple of years already, the government is pushing it because it promotes equality and fairness to all the gender identity and sexual orientation of the Filipino people, and it's about the equal rights to all gender, and it envisions to to eradicate or to lessen the discrimination to any person who's a member of LGBT community, and something like that. So my question is there any law or rule in Thailand that ideally protects the members of the LGBTQ community?
I don't think I'm probably not the best person to answer that question really, but I think we are moving towards that direction. There are campaigns and activists working on, for example, the regulations about titles, Mr. and Miss and stuff, and something to promote equality and recognition. Also things like same-sex marriage as well. I think it's going slowly. At also not only at a country level, but also like at university levels. A lot of some universities are now okay with students to sort of cross-dress, not really cross-dress, to dress according to their gender as well. So I think we are slowly getting there at different levels in the society, but it's not an easy process because not everyone agrees.
Okay, thank you so much, Ajahn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you. And perhaps the next person who raised their hand, Titipong ka. Would you unmute yourself and then ask some questions, please?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the presentations and the talk. It's really rich in insights and critical thinking about gender in general. Well, actually, I have a case to share with Best when it comes to the awareness of using linguistic tools to create the gender equality. In the case of Spanish in America, for example, or the Hispanic communities, they create a specific suffix for the binary linguistic suffix like Latino, and then they turn and try to promote the use of Latinx, just like the same in the Philippine community in LA, for example. They use Filipinx instead of Filipino in order to create that kind of sense of inclusive or inclusive society among people in the community, and try to make it expand broader in the mediatic sphere or in the media, I would better say. So I think in the case of Thailand, one of the problems that we have when it comes to the binary system of language is the particles that Ajahn just presented, ka or ka. I think maybe probably we can propose or offer a kind of new particles for people in the community and try to make it like bigger and more significant in a way. But at the same time, I think we probably have to negotiate the power with the institutions. In this case, I probably have to refer to the Ratchanitya. It's something that can have the authority to dictate or to designate the correctness of the language that we use in society in a way. But what we can do right now is try to promote this kind of not very mainstream use in the community and try to make it bigger and bigger. And I think the netizen nowadays have a knack for it, and they can make it bigger, and we can have a hope on them. That's my suggestion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so shall
we
we
have time for all questions?
Yeah. So perhaps we will move to the chat and then we'll come back to those who raise their hand.
Sure.
Miguel Garcia said, I'm interested in studying discursive construction of LGBT identity in BL. Would it be fruitful to use the English subtitles translation in the analysis, since that is the identity portrayed to the whole world, i.e. non-Thais?
And I guess that depends on your research question of what you are interested in. So like, if you're interested in what goes on, like what is being forwarded to the world, then it might be okay to look at the translation. But I still think it's a good idea to sort of look at the original Thai text, at least aside, because that's the way it's originally intends to be or to say.
Okay, thank you, Ka. And then perhaps one more comment from the chat. Udom Sak said, does Thai society actually understand the term LGBTQ or other sexuality terms? Are we still influenced by the binary opposition concept, male and female?
I think we're still heavily influenced by binary opposition. It's everywhere, but I don't want you to feel like it's, well, Thai society is so bad. Why are we so like stuck with this? It's actually the case in the whole world. We have the case of heteronormativity. People see things in binary opposition of male and female. It's kind of sort of natural, or has been embedded in the way that we think or see things. It really takes time to change people, or to for people to be aware of the diversity. And it's not unique. Relating to this, to one of the comments that we had earlier as well, when you mentioned it, when some of you mentioned the way Thai people connect biological sex with gender and sexuality together. This is not unique. It's the way people, like almost every society in the world has this direction or perception. So I think we're still influenced by that opposition, the binary opposition. Does Thai society actually understand the term LGBTQ or other sexuality terms? I don't think so. We have a lot of discrepancy, I would say, among urban communities like Bangkok or big cities like Chiang Mai or something like that, and other rural or like non-urban places where these concepts are just maybe still a lot of people would call someone who's non-normative as that's just it. So I think if we talk about Thai society kind of in general, no, it's not as common as that. And, well, not everyone knows what sexuality means, something like that. So we're moving, like we are slowly getting there.
Thank you, Ajahn Pavadee. Now, if I may, I'll move back to
The hands.
Atit, shall we go to Atit Wu? Would you unmute yourself and then ask your question, please? Thank
Okay.
you.
First, thank you for your very interesting talk. I have some question concerning about your PhD dissertation about the models you choose from Ox paper indexing gender, right? Did you have specific reason to choose the model from Ox? Did you consider choosing another model like indexical field from Eckert or order of indexicality from Silverstein?
I think what I was trying to do was to kind of show the indirect relationship, and indexical field kind of asks you to bring together a lot of social meanings of one form. But I don't think I've reached that point. I don't think I have like enough data, or like because I only study maybe like one small group of people. And what I was trying to do is that I was trying to argue against what people normally believe, that there's a kind of one-on-one relationship between the way Kathoey or gay men speak and their gender identity. So I think this model captures the ideological association between these two, for me, better than other models.
Okay, thank you very much,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Atit, and thank you, Ajahn Pavadee. And last one who raised their hand, Apishat. Would you unmute yourself, please?
Yes. First, thank you for your interesting presentation. And my question is that as gender identity can be culturally specific, like hijra in South Asia, and I think that the identity Kathoey as well, it is specific to Thai culture. It has its own history. But now it appears that we adopt the term trans women from Western world. So what I would like to argue is that we should use the word Kathoey or trans women. Like, should we try to promote to stop stigmatizing the word Kathoey and embrace it, or just should we use the word trans women instead?
Thank you. I guess that really depends on people, or I mean, even based on my own experience a lot. So I got one of my potential informants who said, I'm not a Kathoey. If you call me a Kathoey, like I wouldn't join you, like just go away. So some people find it like strongly stigmatized, and they wouldn't want people to call themselves a Kathoey. So they might prefer the term transgender, as it sounds kind of more neutral, sounds kind of technical, or a little bit scientific or something like that. Or some people may find it culturally specific, as you said, to be labeled as a Kathoey, and they feel that that's who they are, and it's not something else. As far as I remember, the term trans itself emerged like many years ago, but I think for me it took quite some time for people to actually adopt it and accept that, because people felt like I'm not trans, like, or some people just say I'm a woman or I'm a Kathoey. So I guess if you really want to know, you might need to work with community, and I would say there are differences among communities as well. So you might, well, there are a lot of other factors that might affect this kind of perception. Urbanity, like locations, or occupations or classes, something like that. So I think there are a lot of factors that might affect this, and we need to work with the so-called Gatoy community to actually know what they prefer.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we have a few more left in the chat room. So yes, so Opal, right? Do you think it is going to be possible that we Thai language speakers can somehow invent the gender neutral first person pronoun like I and make it not limitedly used in the community of those aware of gender issues?
I think it's possible, but it might take some time, that I said, because like the thing that we are different maybe from other languages because we already have neutral pronouns, but it doesn't quite fit the same thing as masculine or feminine ones that we have, but I think it's possible, but I think some people, correct me if I'm wrong, I think some people may not think it's necessary, partly because there are many ways to avoid even referring to yourself at all in the Thai language. Like it's possible to have zero pronouns, so you can just say what you want to say without saying I in Thai, because we're like radical pro language, or you can just use your name, you can just use any kinship terms or whatever, like a lot of terms. I've heard some people say sort of this in Thai, like ni kid wow, like this thinks that. It's kind of, I think we have a lot of options already, but I agree that none of the options haven't really matched with what some people might want to do. So I think it really depends. Yeah.
And perhaps last comment from the chat. That's
Sure.
Tanon, right? Yes. Thank you for the talk. And I have a somewhat broad question regarding sociolinguistic perspectives on gender and sexuality. So far, we have looked at studies related to gender normativity and diverse identities. One detail I noticed was that said identities still lie on some kind of spectrum comprising of masculinity, maleness, and femininity and femaleness. Are there any sociolinguistic research upon non-binary or gender fluid or ambiguous identities, either in Thai or Western context?
There are not many sociolinguistic studies in Thai relating to language, gender, and sexuality at all, like in any kind of perspective. But in the Western context, there are actually a lot of work already, a lot of research going on, which is not limited only to masculinity or femininity, not only to the opposition, but going into more nuanced kind of identities, addressing the fluidity. And I should say that sociolinguistic research, like recent works focusing on gender and sexual identity, as well as sociolinguistic kind of more generally, have already moved towards the directions where we address the heterogeneity within a group, so like more generally. So towards that direction, like in terms of gender and sexuality, works have been done to really address all the complexity that we have, and not just focusing on masculinity, not just kind of categorizing things into either being masculine or feminine. So that's for other like kind of non-Thai contexts, much more work in the Western world.
Okay, thank you so much, Ajahn. Yeah. I would assume so. We have about 10 minutes left. Yes, okay. Yeah, so if I may, I would like to perhaps thank you, our speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Pavadee, for your talk for today. It's such an insightful talk, and it's very knowledgeable. That through the linguistic approach, we can really see the underlying dominant ideology with regards to gender, sexuality, and of course the idea of sexes, right? Which I mean, really based on the idea of femaleness and maleness, you know, as some of the comments from the chat, and actually some of the audiences have pointed out. Although, I mean, even though that could be considered as the mainstream or dominant, you know, ideology regarding PID in Thai society, but as Dr. Pavadee has been mentioning throughout her talk, is that we shouldn't lose hope, and that we are moving in a, you know, a brighter path, and that recognition and, of course, acknowledgement of diversity should be made in this society, right? So if I may, can I have Dr. Nirada perhaps maybe close today's International Arts Talk session for us, please?
Do I have to say something too? Well, anyway. Thank you so much, Dr. Saisuwan, for joining us. I'm feeling like I'm listening to like a talk radio where Dr. Saisuwan is like the main speaker and we have Dr. Singpliam as a DJ. Okay, so it is quite entertaining and it's also insightful what you presented earlier. So I'm sure that everyone felt the same. And thank you very much for both the speakers and the participants who still stick with us. And now, like at the moment, we still have 88, which is very impressive. So, well, for the next talk, we'll keep you updated. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, our moderator and our speaker. And see you next time.
Thank you very much. Can I just add that if any of you still has like any comments or questions, please feel free to email me or get in touch with me. Either email or Twitter, like just any channel you prefer. So it would be good to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. And I would like to end today's International Arts Talk. Thank you, the audience. Thank you, Ajahn Nirada, and thank you, our distinguished speaker, Dr. Pavadee. Thank you, everyone. สวัสดีค่ะ
Okay, bye.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you.